Welcome to our video on global perspectives on international relations, critical theory, and identity. Today we're going to talk about international perspectives. What are they exactly? International perspectives are ways in which we view international events and communications to better understand the relationships between countries. Let's start with critical theory. Critical theorists look at globalization through the lens of imperialism, colonialism, and class struggle. They also believe that these concepts shape international development and conflict, and that the struggle between working classes and the proletariat define history as well as the political development of the world. Multinational corporations also perpetuate this cycle of economic exploitation by taking advantage of their workers to maximize profits and productivity. Two concepts important to critical theorists are colonialism and imperialism. Colonialism sees development as a zero-sum game, where in order for a country to develop, they have to exploit the resources and raw materials from less developed countries to feed their progress. Because of lower-class exploitation for the benefit of more developed countries, lesser developed countries are always struggling to succeed economically. Critical theorists also believe that colonialist, imperialist practices are the reason that other countries have been unable to match the development of other Western colonial powers. The next two concepts critical theorists explain the world through are world systems and the division of labor. World systems are based on Marxism. They emphasize totality of social and economic phenomena, and they explain how colonialism reinforces capitalism and enables it to survive through the process of exploitation. The division of labor refers to the three types of states according to critical theorists. Core states, which are leading countries that produce high-profit products and enjoy an initial monopoly on the market. Peripheral states, who are less developed countries that produce low-profit or lagging products after monopolistic qualities diminish. And semi-peripheral states, states that produce a nearly even mix of monopoly and competitive products. Let's talk about the implications of the world systems model. The world systems model implies that the global economy is stratified and fixed, that the global division of labor is inevitable and largely static. It implies that global inequalities exist and that the global development process is driven by completion and exploitation of labor. It also implies that multinational corporations use the exploitation of labor through means such as the circumvention of laws, such as tax codes, bonded labor, which is also known as debt and slavery, and the discrimination of women and minorities to maximize profits and productivity. Marginalization is the social process of making unimportant or powerless certain groups within a society. This applies to indigenous peoples and women around the globe especially. Indigenous peoples, of which there are 370 million worldwide, have had their land systematically appropriated, been stripped of their livelihoods, culture, dignity, and identity, and have been dismissed as primitive, uncivilized, and uneducable. Women have been marginalized through low wages, even though they make up to 90% of the workforce in some export zones. They've been expected to work jobs that mimic housework and have been given little opportunity to move up within or break out of the global economy.
The identity perspective gives a focus on globalization and sees it as a way for advanced countries to get farther ahead as less developed countries stray behind. Globalization, the more advanced countries hold most of the power. Development is most about values and identity. Who or what is being developed, such as an ethnicity or religious sector, a nation or a social class. The challenges to development come from the gap between countries. A more advanced country will develop faster. In some countries, the income gap exceeds $25,000 a year, and some countries falls below, making $10,000 a year, compared to developed worlds. In Asia, the income gap falls below $10,000, and about 47% of the people live below the poverty line. However, 8 Asian countries did experience a high level of economic growth. The Four Tigers, which includes Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, and South Korea, pioneered export-led development, which put them on par with developed countries with an annual income of around $30,000. Latin America could be compared to the contrast of Asian countries, most notably the Lost Decade, where they developed below the average of all the developing countries. The per capita growth plummeted to an average below 0.08%, all while going through an oil debt crisis which brought their national debt from $35 billion to $248 billion. Sub-Saharan Africa has an abundance of resources, yet the people average below $1.25 a day. It is one of the poorest and most divided continents. Out of the 20 continents with the greatest regulatory obstacles, 16 are found in sub-Saharan Africa. They also have microeconomic policies which constrain growth and bring with them unreliable electricity supply and strict labor laws. The Middle East and North Africa are extremely rich in resources, with an abundance of oil and a highly educated workforce. Yet they have a high amount of conflict, which in turn allows them to receive foreign aid. They are also a very poor region in terms that they can account for 6% of the world population, yet only contribute 2% of the world income. This is highly due to very corrupt or non-existent administration. The women in the Middle East and North Africa have over the past years received a better education, yet only make up 25% of the workforce. This is due to religious policies. The man is seen as the sole breadwinner, and a two-income household is at oftentimes unwelcomed. As countries become more industrialized, this brings a greater environmental impact on Earth. With a population expected to reach 9 billion by the year 2050, resources will become more scarce. There will be an increase in pollution as demand for fossil fuels increase. The increase in population could also bring a water and food exhaustion. Poor people scavenge the earth for wood to cook their food, and rich nations devour the world's energy resources, especially fossil fuels, to keep their industries going.
Thanks for listening to our project. We hope that this information may be of use to any students studying international relations.